Okay, we're back with Class Dojo here. And Class Dojo is how we are documenting behaviors with parents, and it's a great way for the kids to get motivated. I'm already logged into Class Dojo, and as you notice, I do have a connection with Miss Scott and with Miss Fry, and then my old class. I can archive this. I'm not blocking with Miss Scott, so I can go in here and I can go up to settings and I can change anything that I would like. I can also see what they're getting. But what I could do is I can literally go up to this little button right here, and I can connect students, connect parents, edit class, finish class. I'm finished. I'm going to archive it. It's not my most current class, so I'm going to archive it. And I've already archived that class. Same thing right here. This one asked me if I'm finished with Friday's homeroom. Yes, I am. I'm going to archive the class. Doesn't mean it goes away. It just means it's not applicable. Now, I'm using last year's kids because I feel like instead of me setting up all my kids right now for you to see, I'm going to use last year's kids. For those that are new to Class Dojo, you have to be very careful when you are doing Class Dojo. The green button means one thing, the red button means another thing. If up here, when you go up to settings, and I can add a co-teacher. This year I'm blocking with Miss Rosha, so I can type in Miss Rosha, and it should come up with, maybe not, maybe I have to type in Mrs. Rosha. Interesting. I can share Ms. Kaiser, other teachers in my school. She should be popping up here, right here. Mrs. Rosha, I can invite her to join this class since you are blocking. I can invite students. Nadi has already gone in from last year and created her own username, and she could change her character. So did Christopher and Elijah. The parents all had access to it. That was the nice thing. You can change your skills. You can change this to whatever you would like. I always awarded assemblies more points because you were on display. You had to perform certain behaviors. Hallway, you can change. You can always come up here and change it. If I want to change hallway to 2 points, I can. Save. Participating on task resource always got 2 points because you're in a guest teacher's class. Substitute got 3 points because you're always in a substitute. I did trivia questions, so they got a point for every trivia question that they got right or went home and looked up. Now, if I'm here and I see all these green, if I want to go to the red, I have my students knew there were only certain things you could do to really push those buttons in a red dojo. Bad behavior first cell was -3 automatically. Disturbing others. Towards the end of the year, it was talking. Basically, you could change that to talking in the hallway, off task. You gave the resource to teacher an issue. You didn't finish your stations. Talking during assembly was a -3. If it was a positive or a negative. Down here, right here, it says choose which points you would like the parents to see. All points. You want their parents to see the positive and the negative because if in a conference you bring the red ones up and they've never seen the red ones, then you're going to have a hard time reining those parents back in after you basically just, they've only ever seen the positive that their kid's doing. Okay. I can always go up here to view reports. What I'm going to do right now, I can group my students. I can add a group. If I wanted to put Jasmine, Harini, Kendra, and Josh in a group. And I'm going to call this Argentina. Okay. They were my reading group. If my reading group did so well, I could give them a point. I could give them a persistence point. When I go back into my students, they've just gotten an extra point. Okay, so if you group them, they can get a point. So that's another thing. You can add a note to the for a note about the persistence. They worked hard. I'm not going to do that because I have parents that still check this. If I want to say I want to go back to my students, and each day you might reset your bubbles each day. I reset mine every week. Reset bubbles. All you're doing is you're selecting all and you're hitting reset bubbles. You are not doing anything else. All you're doing is resetting your bubbles. All it's doing is putting it back to 0. That information does not go away. If you go back to view reports and you go to whole class, and because we're not in school this week, I'm going to go to all time. It's going to take a moment because there was a lot of positives. I barely gave out any reds. In fact, I probably gave 1 or 2 out the entire year last year. I gave 16 out, sorry. I gave 16 out last year, and I gave 5,749 out. So it'll show up for what I've given them for. It'll show up positives. When we go to do our rewards, I'll show you how to change the time and the date to customize your date range. And you can pick your dates, and then that's the kids that will attend your rewards. You can take attendance on here. Usually what I do with this is if Jasmine wasn't absent or Abigail was absent, I would come down here to attendance. I'd click attendance, and I would mark Abigail absent. If I marked Abigail absent, anytime I gave the whole class a point, Abigail never got a point. This was another great way to track attendance. So parents question, well, I don't understand why they didn't get any points, or there wasn't ever an issue with your SchoolNet attendance. This was another tracking tool. I've used select multiple before, where you can collect and right here you can see, because I marked Abigail absent, she's not an option to click. And I can give feedback, and I can pick what they would like, or I can give them negatives depending on that. I've done random before. I've picked random and it's gone through. And if you have the kid marked absent, of course they won't be an option. And I would put, okay, Chris, what's the answer to blah 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 blah? They participated and they got that point. So that was another way to use this tool. I've used the timer multiple times, counting down. You can use a stopwatch here, or you can use the countdown. And it counts down. That was another good way to use the timer. Student accounts. Each student has their own account, and they can get a QR code. And so you can choose to connect all the parents. Now, the nice thing is, here's the nice thing about that, is up here, down here, I have 96% active parents. So if I were to go up to portfolios and I want to add something to one student, I want to add it to Michael's student. Michael did something awesome. And you can see we've already added something last year. And here was first day of 5th grade with Michael. So Ms. Kaiser she took a picture of every kid in 5th grade last year and put it in their portfolio. It was just another thing that we had. Now you can tell Elijah posted this. He posted this in his own thing. You can tell it was done at 6:18 p.m. He's almost done chalk. So he posted that for me. So that was the nice thing to see some of these kids go through the things. Up here with class story. Class story is any pictures that you want to post that you did with your kids. Now, this is starting all the way back at the very beginning, because this was done at the very beginning last year. This was done at the very beginning because we had the marshmallow towers. So you can see all of the things that were done at the very beginning and their strategies. I had so much on here that, anytime I did something fun, I put it with the kids and parents got to stay connected. You can also have messages in here if you want to share with all of your parents. You can write, like I wrote here, I just found out there will be no orchestra. You can see whose parents have seen it. Progress reports going home today. Please sign in return. Even though I spelled Ann wrong, 22 parents have received it. But if I wanted to just talk to Caitlin's mom, this is a one-on-one conversation with Pat Robertson. Okay, so that was the nice thing. This red thing also meant that there was a parent that was trying to get a hold of me. So for crossing over ceremony on Thursday, when should students arrive? Of course, I told him, and we didn't respond to that email. So, of course, that red, now that I've seen that, has gone away. If anytime you want to go back, just hit the classroom button. The other thing that you have to be careful with is you want to hit display settings. If you go to display settings, you can set it anywhere. Here's what you need to have. You need to have the separate bubbles. If you hit combine, it takes away. So if you give them a green and then you give them a red, instead of having one green, one red, it'll have 0. You can't do that. And you can't do don't show totals. You want to hit separate totals, and that gives you the 0 and the red 0 and the red green 0 right now. I always like playing the sounds for positive and needs work. I liked having the show notification, something totally up to you if you choose. But that is Class Dojo in a nutshell. If you have any questions, feel free to come and stop in any day and let me know.